This is Dalton Burkhardt, and this is my case study for EDL 853, Get This Child Out of My Room. A quick summary of the case study is Susan is the new special ed teacher at Schuyler K-12 Comprehensive School, and Nancy Taylor is a classroom teacher that's been there for a while, and she's having problems with a student named Carl. Now, this student is on an IEP, but she demands that Susan gets Carl out of her classroom. His behavior is really aggressive toward Miss Taylor, and she feels that it could eventually geared more toward the students. So she really wants Carl out of there. So Susan schedules an IEP meeting with the parents who just recently had a really bitter divorce and to discuss the revised program that she has entailed for Carl. Although her plan entails removing Carl for a short time when he gets aggressive, it's not enough for Miss Taylor, and she wants a little bit more. Okay, category one, problem identification and analysis. What do I know? Well, I know that Carl's behavior has changed because of his parents' divorce in the last 3 months. His behavior was self-abusive and aggressive, but now it's more toward aggression and it's directly toward Miss Taylor. Susan's the new special education teacher at the school. The Fulton School District has one superintendent who spends one day in each school, and then each school has their own like assistant superintendents just to help out. Nancy wants Carl out of her classroom immediately. She feels that he's unsafe for her and for the other students. And Susan plans to remove Carl from class when he becomes aggressive, but that's only for a short period of time until he calms down. Then he's going to be reintroduced back into that classroom. Her plan was approved by the superintendent, but he requested that an IEP meeting be scheduled with the parents, Susan and Nancy, for the approval for the revised program. The parents are okay with whatever the staff has entailed. They weren't really helpful during the meeting. They just started bickering at each other for a little bit. Then they just said, do whatever you need to do. And Miss Taylor was not happy with the result. She wants Carl permanently out, not having to come back into the classroom. What do I need to know? I need to know Carl's previous services that were included on his IEP, and that was from the previous special ed teacher who was around the district for a very long time and was very well renounced. Is Miss Taylor following the IEP that was established by Miss Lewis? And Miss Lewis was the previous special education teacher. And does Carl have a better relationship with another teacher? They discuss maybe having a male come in or the principal come in. Does he do better with the other teachers, or is it aggression toward everybody? And why is his main aggression directed toward Miss Taylor? Is she having triggers that are setting him off? Is the oversensory? Just a lot of things that could be setting it off that we don't know. And how does he treat his siblings? We did find out that one of his siblings is on medication. So is he on that medication, and is he abusive or aggressive toward his siblings as well? Identify the problem. What is causing Carl to become aggressive toward his teacher? That is the problem. And what can be done to keep him in the least restrictive environment? We all know that Miss Taylor wants Carl to be put in a resource room or the detention to do homework instead of being involved with the class. She stated that that is what the previous special education teacher would do, is let them do work and assignments in the resource room, which is this break of special education law and IEP that states a child should be learning with his peers. Category 2, proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. As the building leader, I will analyze the data in regards to Carl's academics and SIT meetings and concerns. Find out how his grades are, how the grades were before the divorce, and then just what other concerns other teachers have been bringing up. I would sit into Carl's classroom and observe his behavior, looking for the triggers or the stimuli that is causing these aggressions toward the teacher. As building leader, I would reevaluate Carl's IEP, make sure that everything is in place, the right accommodations and modifications are into the IEP, and I would discuss those accommodations and modifications with Susan's in regards to child, in regards to Carl. And then I would personally, as the building leader, I would assign Carl a paraprofessional. I feel maybe having that structure support with him at all times, and that would be beneficial for him. And that pair could also learn a little bit more about him than the teacher or the staff would, because she would spend most of the time with him. So she might be able to find those triggers and be able to pull him away from them before his aggression sets off. And then discuss any changes to the IEP with the parents during IEP meetings. I would, as building leader, collaborate with the staff to ensure that Carl is given the least restrictive environment and resources needed to succeed. And then I'd be readily available to support Miss Taylor and Susan, and that's in other staff as well. I'd be there for constant communication and just support for the teaching staff. Resolve the issues based on promoting the success for all students. What is best for all students? I believe keeping the student in the inclusion or the least restrictive environment is the best option for all students. The Individual Disability Act, or IDEA, says that children who receive special education services should learn in the least restrictive environment. This is having them around peers and so that they find the good behaviors, positive behaviors, and they learn from the peers. But also the peers can learn from the student with a disability and learn the people first language and just help meet the disabilities, meet their goals based on their IEPs, and learn to work with others. Their learning might require adaptations and modifications, but they should be taught the same material as everyone else in the least restrictive environment. If the student needs to be placed in another environment, services will be provided to ensure student success and criteria on the IEP are met. So if the student has to go, unfortunately, if the student has to go into a room by himself or just away from the least restrictive environment, we still need to make sure that all his goals on his IEPs are being met. And if that behavior does worsen, we'll have to find different placement for him, which is not the most preferred option. Category 4, debriefing the problem. So what I was thinking. While reading the case study, I was starting to think about ways I would, as the building leader, create the adaptations and modifications for Carl to promote his success and also his safety. Then I was thinking what I could do to help Carl self-regulate. I know in my school we have different ways that we promote self-regulation to our students when they start getting upset or sad, even if that's just like hugging to himself, walking away and talking to himself. I would just highly promote that to Carl so that he learns that he can de-escalate his own aggressions. And I was also thinking about why Miss Taylor is not willing to work with Susan. It seems like Miss Taylor is kind of stuck in her ways and she wants it to go her way, and she's wanting the best for her and her class, not the best for the students. And what was I feeling? Once again, I was angry with Miss Taylor. I don't like how she was handling the situations. I feel like it was about her and not the student's success. And then I was feeling sad for Susan. I felt that she was not getting the help and support she needed being the first year teacher. I feel like the administration really wasn't there for her. She had to figure out and do a lot of things on her own and then go out of her way to talk to other people. So I just felt kind of sad for her. I've been in the same position where I'm just kind of like thrown in there and expected what did I need to do. And I felt sad for Carl. I felt that he wasn't getting the support that he needed at home, and then that he wasn't getting some of the support that he needed in his classroom through with Miss Taylor. I feel like she didn't even really try to talk to him about his problems or his emotions and aggression. I think she just reacted on it. And I feel that I have to support the staff and discuss the issues and develop unity to help resolve the issue. We're all one building, we're all one institute, and I think that every teacher and all the staff members need to be there to help uplift every student and work together to make sure the student succeeds. What was I valuing? I was valu- I was evaluating the determination and integrity by Susan by following the IEPs, sticking to the IEPs, and following the laws of the IEPs. With all that, I value providing a least restrictive environment for all students. School parent relationship is a big value to me. I feel that the parents should feel comfortable to talk to the school and the teachers should also feel confident and safe talking to the parents and expecting to know that they can collaborate and work together to resolve an issue. And once again, I value positive communication and collaboration. That goes back to not just the parents, but the community involvement as well. And then I value the institution being a safe environment for all and promote student success. Unresolved issues. And one of the unresolved issues I had was, will Susan's plan work? She developed this plan to pull him out of the classroom until they calm down and bring him back in. Or so will that work? And will Miss Taylor get her way and have Carl completely removed from her class? And another unresolved issue is, will Carl's parents become more involved and work together? And not only work together with each other, but work together with the school staff and the IEP intervention team. During the meeting, they just were just, yes, you could do whatever you want. They were arguing. They just weren't being real helpful to the staff trying to figure out a cause or a solution to Carl's aggression. Category 5, Component 1, promoting academic success for every student by enhancing educational capacity. I feel definitely professional development. The staff needs to understand and be equipped with the knowledge to handle situations and the steps and procedures to implement and go over IEPs to promote the student success. And the IEP meetings were established in the case study with Carl's family and her intervention team. So that's something that Susan did immediately and was very good on. And then she's providing Carl with the least restrictive environment, which once again I feel is one of the most important things for children with disabilities is to be in that environment with their peers and classes. And development and implementation and strategies and interventions. Susan did come up with implementations and strategies to help resolve some of the issue, but we once again are aware if it's going to work or not, and we just need to just see what her strategies are and go from there. Component 2, promoting personal well-being of every student by enhancing instructional capacity. As the building leader and from what I discovered in the case studies, providing a safe place for Carl when he becomes upset. I know that Susan was doing that as well. I know that she has interventions and she set up an intervention team to go over the IEP and what would work best for Carl in this situation. And then personally, as the building professional or the building leader, I would provide Carl with a paraprofessional. Once again, I feel that paraprofessional can be there to support Carl, help him with his work, and also help the staff by learning more about what triggers Carl. Class observations. As a building leader, I would observe the classes, see how the classroom behavior is, see the environment. Once again, it goes back to discovering triggers and how Carl reacts to specific stimuli. One-on-one conversations. I believe Susan in the case study had one-on-one conversations about Carl or with Carl and discuss some of the issues, but he was kind of putting his head down and not really communicating very well. Schedule IEP meetings. I feel anytime that a student is displaying some type of disability, staff needs to get together on SIT meetings and IEP meetings. And then finally, once again, the unpreferred method is removal of Carl. I'm all for the least restrictive environment, and I feel removal is an option, but it's the very, very last option. Component 3, enhance instructional capacity. Collaboration and communication between Susan and Ms. Taylor. I know that Ms. Taylor did go up to Susan and discuss her concerns with Carl about his aggression and toward her and how it was some self-aggression, self-harm, and then geared more toward Miss Taylor. So I feel they did a real good job on communicating at the beginning with each other, and then Susan being able to take that information and then revise the IEP a little bit. Then Susan seeks help and confirmation from the superintendent and the superintendent. She did have the plan set up. She discussed it with his superintendent. She just needed to do the reevaluation of Carl's IEP, which requires a yes or a no from the parents.